Welcome to Dream Lovers, a podcast where two married specialists in the unconscious analyze and interpret listeners' dreams.
I'm Sara, a spiritual alchemist and hypnotherapist, and the founder of a modern mystery school for business owners where we combine the power of the subconscious mind with magic to create whatever we want.
And I'm Pat Stray. I'm a board-certified clinical hypnotherapist and a dream therapist. I combine a study of the subconscious with a lifelong interest in mythology and archetypal images and story to create meaning for people by interpreting their dreams.
Wow, we sound fancy.
I think if we ever release behind the scenes and people see how many times it took us to get through that, we won't seem as fancy.
Yeah, you're probably right. But they don't have to know that.
No, except I just told them.
Well.
And also, if we ever release video of this, the first thing people will notice is we're wearing the same shirt.
We are wearing, well, not the same shirt. We're wearing different shirts.
Yeah, we're not both in the same shirt. It's not that kind of podcast, but we're wearing two versions of the same shirt, kind of.
Basically, we're just wearing the same color shirt. You made it sound like really
weird.
Intense and weird, yeah.
But it wasn't unplanned, so we'll chalk that up as a possible synchronicity. Also, our dog Miles is in the studio, and I was against that, but Sara said, it's fine, let him stay. And he's already knocked a skull off a table, and he's growling out the window at someone.
We're happy that you are here listening to this train wreck of a podcast, and we're getting ready to, what are we going to do? Tell the people.
We are going to analyze dreams sent in by our listeners, dreams that we've gathered from our friends and people we know, maybe even our own dreams at some point. But we're going to analyze them. And that's different than what I do professionally. What I do professionally is therapy. And so...
Dream therapy.
Dream therapy, yes. Analyzing dreams is kind of like a party trick. If you've been trained a little bit, if you have kind of intuitive understanding of metaphor and images and archetypes and mythology, then anybody can analyze dreams. And we're having them sent in by listeners. That's the dreamer doesn't even have to be present. If you're doing dream therapy, the therapist and the dreamer work together to come up with the personal associations the person has for the dreams. And so I make that distinction because I think it's important. Yes, dream analysis is important to what I do, and it's a part of what I do, but it's not the full thing. So if say the listener who sent this dream in is listening and they pick up on what we say, that's not necessarily what their dream is saying to them. Really finding out what it's saying would require us sitting down with them and saying, okay, let's dig into this in you. Does that make sense? Did I explain that well?
Honestly, I was kind of zoning out, so I'm sure it was fine. But
let me ask Miles. Miles, did I explain that well?
Here's what I want to, where I want to start is you just explained what you do.
Yes.
And what this podcast is essentially going to be about.
Which is what the people are here for.
Right, exactly. Right? And which I think was good. It's the perfect place to start. Why am I here?
You're here because you, as we mentioned in the intro, you specialize in the subconscious. And specifically, if I had to kind of to divide what we do differently, we're kind of two sides of the same conversation. So you teach people how to communicate with their subconscious, how to say to your subconscious, here are my intentions, here's what I want, here's what I'm focusing on, here's my values. But for a conversation to work, you can't just talk, you also have to listen. And so what I specialize is, after you've said what you want to say to your subconscious, how do you listen? Or maybe before you've said what you want to say, how do you see what your subconscious is saying to you? And so that's how I feel we are kind of the yin to each other's yang. Would you agree with that?
I completely agree. I just wanted you to say it so
that would have been,
everyone would know.
If you had disagreed, that would have been terrifying.
That would have been really awkward.
It would have been like, oh, well, maybe we need to do counseling, and maybe this podcast is not such a great idea, and that kind of thing.
Well, that's yet to be determined. Yeah, I guess we'll do a few episodes
which part?
And
see.
see.
The counseling or the podcast?
All of it.
Okay, all right. So you had something you wanted to start with. Do you want to lead into that?
Yeah, so I thought one of the things that I could start with, maybe each week, we'll see how it goes. We'll see how the listener likes this. So you all have to tell us as you're listening. First of all, we want to hear your dreams and we want to feature them on the show. So make sure that as you're listening, that if you have dreams and you want them analyzed and kind of taken apart a little bit so that you can find the meaning and that nugget of wisdom from the dream, make sure you're sending those in to us.
We should probably say, if you want to send those to us, for now, send them to my personal email, patchdrury@gmail.com.
Okay.
And that'll be in the show notes wherever we post this, but you can just email those to me.
Okay, there you go. Perfect. But the other part is that I really love tarot and oracle cards. And this, to me, any way that we can be communicating between our subconscious and conscious, and as you said, listening and back and forth, that dialogue, any way we can open up that dialogue, I think is helpful. So I pulled a card, and I thought, again, if the listeners like this, that we could start each episode with a card reading and just kind of bring our collective energy together into the moment, and then we can dive into the dreams.
And so we should say, wherever you're listening to this, wherever you're consuming this, if there are comments attached, say, yeah, I loved that, Sarah. Yeah. More of that. Or, not really my thing.
Exactly. Basically what we're saying is that we're creating this for you and for you to have the most value possible with dreams, with what the subconscious and with what the things that we're going to talk about. So we want to hear from you. What do you like? What do you don't like? And we will kind of shape this around
maybe
you.
No guarantee of that. If we're doing something we love and you hate it, maybe we'll keep doing it.
And that is the actual difference between the two of us.
You're here to make the audience happy. I'm here to make myself happy.
Well, yeah, a little bit of both. A little bit of both.
Yeah, okay.
All right.
Okay.
So
the card.
The card. It is from the deck Sacred Destiny Oracle. This is one of my favorite oracle decks. And the card that I pulled, I actually thought it was so perfect for this first episode where we're kicking it off, talking about dreams. And the card is Solitude. And so I'm just going to read the little thing that comes in the book because I feel like it is the best way to explain it. So if you pull this card, the sacred landscape wants you to know that it's time to spend some time alone. In your life, this means to take your own counsel rather than relying on the opinions and dictates of others. Break away from the crowd, be on your own. This card also speaks of self-resourcefulness, self-reliance, and tenacious individuality. If you are working on a project, trust your instincts and follow your own lead. Your creativity is at its peak. Let it flow. If you are in a relationship that is disempowering, this card suggests that it's time to step away. Take time to reassess your life. In solitude, you will thrive. This card also suggests safe haven, a sacred womb for incubation, and self-transmutation. And so, to me, that is the entire process of dream, is you are in a solitude state and there is time for creativity and you're taking your own advice. It's not listening to the outside world. It's going inside and tuning into what that guidance and wisdom is inside. So I thought that was the perfect card. The cards never lie.
It was the perfect card for this podcast. And we haven't talked about this morning, but it's actually the perfect card for me. I'm doing a practice right now. We can talk about this on another podcast called Active Imagination. And it was something Carl Jung kind of came up with, where it's you allow your subconscious, the subconscious parts of you, to speak through your imagination. And I've been having these really kind of world-rocking experiences with this. And a part of my subconscious in this active imagination, which it kind of works like meditation a little bit, but it's expressing itself as this wise old bear that comes to me every morning with advice. And I'm writing down the advice. Look at the advice above that little bear's head and read that to me.
Be led by your instincts. Do not try to lead them.
Yeah, so be led by your instincts.
Yeah.
And you even talked about instincts in there.
Yeah.
And one of the things the bear does, you talked about the womb. And I read this thing that when a bear goes into hibernation, he's going into the womb of the earth. Mm-hmm. And so those things really stood out to me. And so I would, as long as I'm invoking Jung, those feel like synchronicities a little bit to me.
Absolutely. Especially like this is saying, be led by your instincts. Don't try to lead them. And this is sort of saying to take your own counsels. Similar. Yeah,
same thing, I think. Absolutely. Yeah. So thank you for that. So
You're
even if the crowd votes no, I say let's keep doing it.
All right.
So let's get to why we're here, which is analyzing a dream. And we have a dream that came to us. I won't go into how it came to us, but this is somebody we both kind of know. We both kind of worked with a little bit. But you have the dream.
I have it.
Why don't you read it?
Here is the dream. I was leaving a building and I came upon a procession of some sort. A person was walking with 4 snakes on leashes, like he was being led by them. But the snakes weren't moving like snakes usually do. Their bodies weren't doing that slither movement. So they were moving forward, but you couldn't really see how. Eventually, 3 of the snakes just kind of disappeared, and there was only 1 snake left. I asked around to find out where the others went, but nobody knew. So the man was just being led by the 1 snake on a leash.
All right.
And this is the tendency with dreams. You're just like, that is so weird. They just disappear. Like, it makes no sense. And I think that this is like a whole language that you speak that most people aren't fluent in, and you're fluent in. And so to me, I'm like, I can pick out a few things. I think this is what's going to be interesting is you can probably already spot all the archetypal patterns and some of the mythology, and you're probably already like chomping at the bit to say, I know where to start with this.
Yeah.
So go ahead.
So that's true. And I appreciate what you said. And I think this is important for our listeners. I'm a big advocate for write down your dreams, every dream you have. And like you said, like when you have that dream, it doesn't make any sense. And so there's a part of you that's going to be like, I'm not going to write that down. That doesn't mean anything. It always means something. Every dream you have means something. It's just whether or not you're able to get to the bottom of it. So even if it seems like it doesn't mean anything, and I, as a dream therapist, and it's like, I still have that tendency. I have dreams where I'm like, that doesn't mean anything, and I'm not going to write it down. But then I do, and then the next morning, and I start taking it apart, and I'm like, oh, crap. I almost missed this.
Yeah.
So yeah, write it down. Something interesting around this dream. We've had this dream for a little bit. And so in the mornings, a lot of times when I'm working, I will play YouTube lectures and listen to them in the background. And so one of the things I was listening to was this question and answer with Marie Louise von Franz. And so she was one of Carl Jung's associates and pupils. And she was really excellent at dream analysis. And so she was answering these questions. And one of the questions was, will you analyze this dream that I had? And she said, when she read it, she's like, oh yeah, I remember reading this. Somebody sent it in. It was the dream about 4 snakes. And I perked up. And this was like back in the 50s. So our listener probably didn't have this dream back then and send it in.
Well, that's a synchronicity in itself.
It absolutely was. Uh-huh. And I was like, oh. And so I put down what I was doing. I was like, okay, I'm going to listen because I knew about this dream coming up. And she says, we don't really have time to get into it. But I read about it. I know which dream you're talking about. It's the dream of the 4 snakes. We don't have really time to get into it. And then so she went to the next question, and I was like, son of a no! But luckily, I am confident in my own ability to work with this dream. But how incredible would it have been to hear one of the foremost Jungians kind of say, oh, here's what 4 snakes means. Because I take a very Jungian approach to this sort of thing. Snakes. A lot of people. I dream about snakes. Do you dream about snakes?
Well, I'm sure I have at some point.
Okay.
It's not like I have often dreamt of snakes, but I'm sure at some point I have dreamt of snakes.
Gotcha. And so Jung says snakes are one of the most common transcendent objects people dream about. Mm-hmm. So a lot of people dream about snakes. And if you ask people, and one of the first things I do in dream therapy is say, well, what does a snake mean to you? And everybody says, oh, I hate snakes. I hate snakes. I hate snakes. And so that's a personal association. And so then you have to determine, well, is that a strong personal association? Is that strong enough that it overcomes an archetypal or a mythic association? Yeah. Maybe, maybe not. Depends on the person. If it's Indiana Jones, who falls 20 feet into a pit of snakes, and a cobra pops up in front of him, his experience probably overpowers the mythic. If you just don't like snakes and you think they're icky, that may not be strong enough to overpower. So then what are, and if we had the lady here, we'd ask her, hey, what do you feel about snakes? But since she's not, let's look at the archetypal meanings.
Transformation.
There are hundreds. Well, that's the one I go to. I tend to go to change, because what do snakes do? They shed their skin. Yeah. So they're kind of like new life and change. That's kind of where I go to immediately. And when I see snakes in my dreams, that's the assumption I make. But you've also pointed out to me, you read somewhere, the snake, the serpent, kind of represents feminine power. Yeah. I did, after I heard that Marie-Louise von Franz thing, I just Googled Marie-Louise von Franz.
Snakes.
Snakes meaning. And she said, and it was hard for me to kind of wrap my mind around this for a little bit, but she said a snake often represents somebody going with societal flow and societal pressures. And I was like, what? Why would that be? Yeah. And here's the closest I've got to it. In Western culture, our guiding myth is Christianity and kind of that Judeo-Christian mythology. And so
you don't mean that everybody believes.
No, not everybody believes it, but that's kind of what underlies. That's the bedrock of, even if you're an atheist,
if you don't,
you probably know the stories.
You know the stories.
They're inside to some degree, right? And so in the creation story, Adam and Eve are in the garden and they're perfect. They haven't discovered what good and evil are. They haven't tacked on any of the stuff that comes with just kind of being human. And so that kind of represents us, like before we've developed our personalities and before our ego is fully formed. We're kind of this pure, beautiful thing that if we could stay there and not be guided by all these cultural ideas, then we'd be kind of perfect. Mm-hmm. And so what happens to Adam and Eve, they encounter the serpent, and the serpent kind of introduces them to, here's what good and evil is. And so they start saying, okay, well, I want to be good instead of bad, and I want to do this because this is good, and I want to do this. I don't want to do this because this is bad. And so that, in a lot of ways, kind of represents the pull of culture. Culture says, here's what we value, be this. And so in that way, and I have no idea if that's what Marie-Louise von Franz was getting at, but that was the association I made to it. And so what we would do if this dreamer was here is we would say, well, do any of those make sense to you? Do you have a different association with snakes? In this dream, she walks out of a building, and so she didn't say what building, but we'd probably say, well, what kind of building? Because if it's a church or a school or her home or a business building, like that would tell us something. Like, what is she departing? What is she walking out of? And she, I think procession was the word. Yes. She comes upon a procession. So what's a procession? And then this is the first step of dream analyzation. You make the associations. So it's interesting that she said procession and not like a parade. Parades are celebratory. Right. That's usually celebrating something as a community. But a procession, what happens? Like, what's the point of a procession?
There's something being featured.
Yes,
usually.
Absolutely. 100%. Yeah. In one of my guiding myths in life is the myth of Parzival, who discovers the Holy Grail, and he discovers it for the first time in a procession. It's being led in a procession through this castle. Yeah, and so that was for him like the thing that's going to save the world, the thing that's going to put everything right, is being presented in a procession. Yeah, and so I'm sure, whether she remembers it or not, this dreamer has heard the Holy Grail story, maybe the Parzival story. So let's assume that's in there. And Jung would say from an
You mean that's in her unconscious?
It's in her unconscious. Yeah. And Jung would say from an archetypal, like collective unconscious, all of this stuff is in us, whether we've encountered it consciously or not.
Yeah.
But so let's say this procession is presenting her with something. Mm-hmm. And so what it's presenting her with is these 4 snakes. And so maybe these snakes represent change. Maybe they represent the pool of culture. Maybe they represent her feminine power in some way. Mm. And so that's one of the things we would start taking apart with a dreamer. What's really also significant here is there's 4 of them.
Yes.
And so Jung said whenever you dream of 4s, you're dreaming of wholeness. Mm. And where he gets that is, well, there are 4 cardinal directions: north, northwest, east, and south. And those get illustrated a lot of different ways in ceremonial magic. There's the 4 corners, and there's 4 archangels.
There's also 4 elements.
There's 4 elements, absolutely. Jung himself had 4 ways that you interact with the world. And so if you've ever taken a Myers-Briggs test,
I have indeed.
What do you know what you are?
Yeah, but go ahead. Continue on.
So those are divided into like sensing, feeling, judging, that kind of thing. There are 4 of them. And so a lot of times he was like, these dreams of wholeness are dreams of you advising you to shore up like the areas that you're weakest in and the areas you're strongest in. Like I said, in ceremonial magic, the 4 elements represent emotion, intelligence, your will, and your physical body. And so if you wanted to, you could, sorry, that's Miles again, he's in the studio. If you wanted to, you could kind of say, okay, these 4 snakes represent these 4 aspects of myself. Yeah. And so,
wow, that's cool.
Yeah, and so we would start asking the dreamer at this point, well, which one of those feels right? You know, what does wholeness mean to you? How do you achieve wholeness? So I believe this dreamer is being presented with potential changes she needs to make to achieve greater wholeness. And we know some things about this lady, so we can kind of say, you know, this is cheating.
She'll identify with that a little, I'm certain.
And so this is cheating a little bit because we know her, but that's okay.
Well, it's not cheating. It's getting better information.
I guess my point is,
story.
As listeners send in their dreams, I'm not always going to have this level of insight. Yes, right. And so the other thing, the snakes aren't wiggling.
Right, they're not moving like
they're moving forward.
Usually do. They're moving forward, but their bodies weren't doing that slither movement.
And so that slither is how the snake propels itself. Yeah. And so if that's missing,
you couldn't see how they were moving.
Exactly.
Oh.
And so this process of change and wholeness is going to seem mysterious. Ooh. It's sometimes you're going to achieve things that you don't know how you achieved them. Mm-hmm. Or you don't know, okay, if I feel like I'm being told I need to work on my emotions, you may not immediately see how that's going to benefit your business or you know, but the idea is trust. You're not going to always see how these movements move you forward.
Right. I always like to talk about it in the sense of the Hermit tarot card, because he's got, if you've ever seen it, you know, you just go look it up, go Google it if you haven't seen it, but he's holding the lantern in front of him and he can't see very far ahead. He just can only see the one step.
Yeah, he's looking down, right?
Like and he's got a lantern. The sun is not shining. It's dark, but he has a lantern. There's a star inside of it. And so you don't have to know how the whole path's going to unfold. You just have to see the one step in front of you, so you don't have to know how to. This is
everything is unfolding here. I love that. I love what you said. I'm going to go to King Arthur again. When all of the knights were presented with the quest of the Holy Grail, they went out to the forest and they're like, you know what? It would be shameful if we all went in the same way, or it would be shameful if we found a pre-worn path and followed it. Yeah. And so they all individually, by themselves, entered the forest at the place that it seemed darkest to them. And so you never know, like you may not see the way forward, but you have to trust. You have to follow the instincts, which is what that card. Yeah, follow our instincts.
Your own instinct, yeah.
And so to this dreamer, I think this dream is telling her to follow her instincts. These snakes are on leashes.
So, yeah, I was going to say, and eventually 3 of them disappeared, and there was only 1.
Yeah, let's start the leashes first.
Yeah, go ahead.
So specifically, the way she kind of described it is, it wasn't like whoever this person was taking the snakes for a walk.
Right.
They were being led by them.
Yes.
And
he was being led by the snakes.
Yes. Yeah. So to me, this feels like the dreamer is being encouraged. Let this change lead you. Don't try to control it. Let it kind of move you in the direction it's going to. Because sometimes, change is uncomfortable to us. So we tend to fight it. We tend to want to keep it under check. But I don't think we can. I think we have to be led by it. But jumping to the point you said, 3 of them eventually disappear, and there's 1 snake left that's doing all the leading. What do you think that says? What does that mean to you?
Oh, I don't know. But I'm also jumping on, so maybe I shouldn't. But then it's like she's asking around about the other 3 too. She's saying, I asked around to find out where the others went. So it's like they're missing. She's looking for them. So in some sense, they're missing, and she wants to find them. So there's something here pulling her forward, leading her, but she doesn't have the wholeness. She doesn't have all of it, all 4. So I don't know. Am I on the right track here?
So there's no. I couldn't be like, yes, you are. All I could say is, hey, that's where I'm thinking, or not. But
well, was it?
Kind of. Okay, you took it in a direction a little bit that I wouldn't have gone in, which would be useful. And so maybe when I do my dream therapy with people, it should be a joint.
Oh, there you go.
The thing that stood out to me about 3 of them kind of being gone and 1 being left and still leading is that I kind of interpret that as there's these 4 pieces that are going to make you whole, but there's 1 that really needs your attention.
Oh, okay. One that's standing out.
And so, and I think that would be something Jung would say is that.
And instead of paying attention to that one thing leading you, you're
you're being distracted. But
what's missing instead of being led by the thing in front of you.
Exactly. Like, well, what about my emotions? Well, you worked on your emotions. You made the changes you need to make. Well, what about my body? Well, you did that. But you really need to focus on your will. That's the one and so, I'm just like examples. Yeah. But that's, what is the thing that seems to rise above the others? And as I was saying, Jung kind of said, we have, out of these 4 functions of how we interact with the world, we have one that's stronger for us.
Yeah.
And one that's weaker for us. And so if you're going to work on one, and I'm pretty intuitive, then don't work on being intuitive.
Yeah, because one thing that you've always talked about that I think makes a lot of sense is that your dream is never patting you on the back, telling you necessarily that you're doing a great job. I mean, maybe it'll tell you you're on the right track, but it's not going to give you information that you already have. It's trying to impart something that you haven't fully integrated.
Yes. And so, maybe it will say good job, but it's probably going to say that if you don't think you're doing a good job.
Yeah. Okay.
So your dream is never just there as a little movie to watch. It's always trying to give you information. And receiving the information means interpreting it correctly.
Yeah, and you have to understand then metaphor and archetype and mythology and all these things, which is why we're doing this.
And then also your personal history.
Correct.
Because there are some podcasts out there that do dream interpretation that I really love. I enjoy these podcasts. But they kind of never say at the beginning of it, this is like getting half a diploma. To get the full diploma, we really need the dreamer to be a part of it. It's a give and take process, like all good therapy, I think. But anyway, so I think what this dreamer's dream is saying to them is, you're being led towards wholeness, but that wholeness is going to come through you making some changes. And there's one particular change that is going to stand out and that you need to focus on. And so, like I said, that's an interpretation we make without her here, but that's kind of what I feel.
So here's my question, is a couple of things to kind of bring this full circle. Is one, do you have any questions that you would ask this listener that she can ask herself and maybe journal on or be, contemplating, that she can integrate this further? And then the second part, so that's one, remember that.
Okay.
And then the second part is that something that you always talk about is to ritualize the dream so the unconscious can know that you heard it and you got the message and you're working on the information. So again, this give and take relationship that you are cultivating with this inner part of yourself. So I think that it would be really helpful with each of these dreams that we're interpreting if you could give those questions and then also help this person decide for themselves a ritual that they're going to do. And then the other thing is, because I think that's also going to encourage people to send more dreams in, because they're going to, this is the whole thing, is like, I think it's easy to be like, oh, dreams, that seems, oh, whatever. But it's not about the dream. It's about what the dream can do when you're integrating the information that you're downloading, essentially, into your daily life that will allow you to move forward. So let's say that this person understands now, oh, actually, after listening to that, I know exactly the thing that is trying to lead me forward, and I know now where to focus. Like, that's invaluable information when she can integrate this, and when people can integrate the messages of their dreams. So
yeah, I 100%. I love everything you just said there.
I more said that for the audience.
Sure, no, but I liked hearing it. No, but you're absolutely right. It's not just, oh, dreams. That's interesting. Your dreams are trying to help you see something that you've been missing consciously.
You're communicating with another dimension in dream time. I mean, I know you're not going to go there. That's where I'm going to go with it. Yeah. And that's why you brought me on. So don't try to tell me I can't say that.
I'm not. But what I'm going to say is you're communicating with a 2 million-year-old mentor. Imagine you have a mentor that's been alive 2 million years, and all the things that has seen. And that's something Carl Jung said himself. He didn't use the word mentor, but he said we have this 2 million-year-old self inside of us that knows how to do things and understands things. And so listen to that, because when you do, if you can change the way you're looking at something and looking at a problem, you open up new...
That's the magic right there.
Yeah, you open up new potentials and new possibilities for yourself. So yeah, 100%. Questions I would tell her to ask, 1 million.
Well, give me 3.
What's the building you walked out of?
Okay.
Which of the 3 or which of your own personal associations do you have with snakes? Is it change? Is it feminine power? Is it... going against or going with the flow of culture? And I think the other important thing is, if I was going to divide wholeness for me into 4 parts, what do I think those are? And that would be the kind of thing that if I was with a therapy patient, I would really help them and guide them on that, because it's hard to, from the looking from the inside, look like what is my life divided into 4 of, and so that's something we would...
Well, can I say that Florence Scovel Shinn says the 4 are health, wealth, love, and perfect self-expression.
Okay, that's good.
So whether you take that on as your own 4 parts of wholeness or not, I think they're a starting place.
Yeah.
Health, wealth, love, and perfect self-expression, and how can you have them in equal parts? And I have some ideas of where that could go.
Okay,
for this.
that's perfect. That's awesome. Well done, Scovel Shinn.
She's my favorite. Flosco.
Flosco.
Okay.
Way to go,
Yeah.
Flosco. And then so
my girl.
what are the questions? And then what else did you...
So how do we ritualize this? So
Okay, how do we
tell,
ritualize
first of
it?
all, why it's important
Okay.
to ritualize a dream that you've had and that you've analyzed. And now this is sort of like this final piece of the puzzle to integrate. So you look at the questions, you go through it, you say, okay, I interpret it in this way. These are the ways it applies to my life. Now what do I do?
Okay, so there are two really things I would say. Yes, ritualize it, and we'll talk about that, but also apply it. So if the dream gives
but I
you...
want to talk about the
Sure,
ritual.
I'm going to get to
just
that.
kidding.
If you get wisdom from a dream, if you get advice and you don't follow it, then what was the point? What's the point of listening? What's the point of doing the thing? So yes, when she figures out what this dream means, she'll get the results if she does what it's telling her to do.
Right.
Now let's get to ritual. This is my new favorite way of ritualizing things. To me, the best way to ritualize something is art. Mm-hmm. So you can do, you could, but it can be anything. Basically, you're taking your response to the dream and you're creating an image of it. And so that...
What if I don't draw?
Drawing and art are not synonyms. What if you sing? What if you dance?
I like to sing.
What if you cook?
I don't cook.
Anything that you create, if you can create something, that's art.
Yeah.
So if you carve chairs out of stumps, you could be like, okay, this chair I'm going to create.
Carve a little snake into it.
You could.
Ooh, I like
so
this.
whatever
All
it means, whatever,
but I don't carve
whatever
it.
image you can pull from that dream that you want to kind of immortalize, that you want to objectify in the art, you can do. So
you could write a little poem. Or
exactly. Write a story.
Okay.
And so Jung called, when you do something like this, he called it dreaming the dream forward.
Ooh,
so we have a place where the dream stops. We're like,
Yeah.
okay, this was the end of the dream. Well, what if it kept going? What if she found the other 3 snakes? Or what if one of the snake in the center, what if it led her somewhere in particular? And so that's one way to...
Good. See, this is why I wanted to do this.
That's one way to ritualize, is just create a story or create art around it.
Yeah.
Or you could do something... art's hard for some people. They don't feel comfortable doing that right off. So you could, if you see a snake skin somewhere, pick it up. Or you could...
Let's just take a picture of it.
Okay.
I'm not picking up a snake
Well, you don't
skin.
this isn't your dream. You don't have to
I know,
do
but
any of
I
this
know
stuff.
this person is not picking up a snake skin
fine,
either.
Fine. If maybe you have a dog leash in your house that you don't use, maybe put it in your car. Keep it where you can see it. You're like, what am I being led by? And so by objectifying these things, by immortalizing these things, you're kind of speaking back to the dream. It's like, okay, this is... You speak in images, I'm going to speak back to you in images.
I just even had a thought, like you could buy one of those little like keychain things that is like, looks like snake skin and carry it on your keys.
Yeah, you can do that if you're looking for a way not to have to touch us. And how often do you see snake skins?
Like,
I've never seen a snake skin.
Exactly.
So, anyway.
So that was a terrible recommendation. Right. I'm just kidding. No.
For the next episode, it's just going to be me by myself, just so you guys know.
I'm probably getting kicked off this thing, y'all. But do you want to know my Myers-Briggs?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
All right. I am an INFP. So they call that the mediator. Someone who possesses the introverted, intuitive, feeling, prospecting personality. Prospecting? Is that what that is? Anyway. What?
Just listening to you.
Anyway. So there you go.
So you're a prospector.
I'm a prospector.
You're an old man.
I'm the prospector.
So I never remember what mine is.
Yeah, I know.
But what
I had to look it up.
But what I do remember is that I am the same thing as Joseph Campbell.
Ooh.
And so that means...
All right, we got to look that up. What does that mean to you?
We'll just ask what is...
No, what does it mean to you?
I know, but I'm telling you how to look it up.
I know how to look
I know, but you don't know what a prospector is. It means to me that one of my heroes, maybe the reason he's one of my heroes is because we see the world and interact with the world the same way. That's why that was meaningful to me.
Well, I basically just wanted you to talk so I could have time to look it up.
Well,
okay, so Joseph Campbell is an INFP. J, sorry.
And apparently that's like the most rare personality type.
I bet you love that.
Oh, yeah.
I'm the most rare personality type.
I'm a flower.
Well, I'm a prospector. So.
Yeah. Well, I'm Joseph Campbell.
No. Okay, so you're INFJ and I'm INFP.
Yeah,
well,
so.
that's interesting. Okay. So somebody who knows about this.
J stands for judging and P stands for perceiving. Judging. So
no prospecting. That's what it said.
It's perceiving. I don't like it. Might have said prospecting, but P stands for perceiving.
And we digress. We're moving on.
We've done the analyzing, and now we're just like.
Yeah, whatever. See, we are going to have to go to counseling.
Yeah. Okay. I think this is it though.
I think we did a great job for our. Let's high five.
I really enjoyed it, and I've podcasted several times, and I was thinking the other day about how many podcast hosts I've had. A guy named Brett. Guys named
joint.
Yeah, like co-host.
A co-host.
So a guy named Brett, a guy named Leo, a guy named Kaylor, a guy named Brandon. And I feel like off the top of my head, that's all I can think of. But like the idea
that's
of you,
a lot.
I know.
Wow.
The idea of you and I doing a podcast together got me so excited.
Oh,
and
that's so nice.
I am so thrilled to be able to work on something with you because I look up to you.
As you should.
I think your additions to this, and I almost did this idea by myself.
Yeah.
And I started to do it once. And I was like, I'm much more charming when I'm talking to someone. And why not talk to someone that I really want to like me and love me? And so you were the perfect host.
You are really showing. Your subconscious is showing right now.
Really? Why?
I want you to like me and love me.
Well, it's because I'm trying to get you into bed. Holy crap. Come on. I don't think that's my subconscious that's showing.
Oh, okay. All right.
That's my conscious.
Okay. Thank you for all of that. So I think people are getting a very clear glimpse into our dynamic as a couple.
Yeah, which may bite us in the ass.
Yeah, absolutely. But that's okay. But here's the thing is why I wanted to do this with you is because, one, I think you're really talented at like this in particular. And I think it's really cool how it combines all of the things that you're good at and that you love and stuff that I am good at and I love. And so, to me, it really is like what you said, like it's like we're the yin and the yang. And I feel like we're the yin and the yang in life for each other often. And so, I don't know, I just thought it'd be fun. So hopefully you sitting there listening to this are enjoying it and getting some value. We will get a little more concise and get our shit together. It'll come together.
Yeah.
But hopefully we've enjoyed ourselves. So hopefully you're also enjoying it and getting some value. And please send us your dreams. Also, if you want to dive deeper with both of us, we actually are starting a dream therapy circle. Is that what we're calling it?
Sure.
It's a working title, people. But we are starting a dream therapy circle, which is a monthly, very minimal cost membership where you get to be a part of these conversations. And like Patrick was saying, you get to put your dream in and then have us actually interact with you and ask you the questions real time on like a Zoom call so that you can have the answers, integrate the material or the information, and be able to move forward powerfully in your life doing the things you want, because that is what I have dedicated my life to. It's helping people get what they want. So.
Yeah, and I have dedicated my life to podcasting. No, I'm just kidding. I mentioned so many co-hosts. I've dedicated my life to helping people connect with that 2 million-year-old mentor. Like, you know, there's so many people out there wanting to tell you what to do, And you don't have to listen to any of them.
Yeah.
You can listen to yourself. You can listen to your dreams. You can connect to your own instincts.
Exactly. Back to the card where we started, and then we'll wrap this up. But in your life, this means to take your own counsel rather than relying on the opinions and dictates of others. Break away from the crowd and be your own source of power. I added that line. So, thank you for being with us today. We will see you on the next episode.
See ya.